Hello everyone, welcome back to On Location here. Today I'm on location here at Richardson Forest Preserve. This is a 413 acre nature preserve that is owned and maintained by the Great Parks of Hamilton County, where I'm at here. And it's mostly forested habitat that's along a creek side that's known as Bandlick Creek. And it has a very low-key kind of interesting entrance because it's at a no outlet road, right at the end of the road. And there's a graffiti tagged bridge and several trail cameras, and it has a weird kind of almost weird setup, creepy almost. I'm not sure if those trail cameras are meant for like one of the private property or homeowners off to the side here that are neighboring Richardson Forest, but nonetheless, it's definitely a spot that's I think well worth checking out. Yeah, like I said, 413 acres, very nice woodsy habitat. And of course, given the month of April here where I'm at, it's going to be a great place for wildflowers. Now, I went here a couple weeks ago just to scout around and check the place out for the first time. I was quite blown away by the variety of flowers and plant life here. So that's really what I'm going to be focusing on today for photographs. I think we're going to have a lot of good success here. I saw a good variety of them, namely Virginia Spring Beauty, Rue Anemone, saw some violets, stuff like purple cress, some toad shades were coming into bloom as well, and several other varieties that I'm going to point out as I go along the trails here. But in terms of the trails themselves, they're largely undeveloped. There are some well-trodden paths, but they're not really clearly laid out with trail markers and everything. So as the name suggests, it's merely a nature preserve. It's mainly for the conservation of the wildlife and plant life here, but it is open to the public, thankfully, and you can park at that dead-end road and check it out for yourself. In terms of the history of the location, it was donated to the Hamilton County Park District, also known as the Great Parks of Hamilton County, by Mrs. Ann Richardson in 1978, and it's, like I said, now open to the public, thankfully. So I'm here, it's pretty much late afternoon, kind of like get into the evening now. I got a couple hours of daylight here, and but as we get into the woodland here, which is just behind me here, or behind the camera that is, it's going to get very shaded. Even though it's April, the trees aren't fully leafed out, but they're definitely getting a lot more shade in woodlands in particular. So that's going to make for some nice photographs, I think. We'll kind of see what I take and what focal lengths and like lens techniques and whatnot that I get. I'm thinking about doing some macro stuff and maybe as well as some wide angles of the wildflowers themselves, depending on how that whole setup is going to, I think, pan out. But so on the topic of wildflowers here, of course you're going to get some that are going to be invasive or non-native species, like this garlic mustard here, seen by the little bit of white flowering heads here on the top, and just these alternate leaves, as you can see. And they can grow pretty tall and pretty large, just depending on how much sunlight is available and anything else with the particular habitat here. But you can see, compared to like these low-lying violets and stuff, they can really grow in these large amounts and really crowd out the woodland floor here and just make it not as available for native biodiversity and everything. If you're looking to pick some, to pick them out, that is, you should pull them by the roots. Try my best. Very large root system, at least on this one. Alrighty, so I took a couple images. I'm doing a vertical composition orientation, and I'm at about 60th of a second, f7.1 in ISO 400. F7.1, you know, it gives it a nice, drops out the background and gives it solely the focus on the flowers themselves, the blue-eyed Mary here. And ISO 400, which may seem a little bit high, but I have to compensate for the gusts of wind that keep coming in pretty constantly, as it is right now, and to have a little bit of a higher shutter speed at 60th of a second. And plus it's in the shade here primarily, so it's just another thing to factor in. I am considering using a circular polarizer filter, which I might, not too sure. I might use it later on for stuff in the woodland here, depending on where it's at and the lighting situation there. So anyways, pretty cool. I'm gonna take a few more images probably of these flowers in particular, and then I'll finally get my way into the woodland here. So as one can expect, it's much like wildlife photography. You want to get down as low as possible or eye level. It's typically the best case scenario when it comes to composition here, and wildflowers are much the same. So I would recommend, if you're able to afford it or get one, to get a tripod that allows you to have basically down to the ground. This one has no center column. It does have a fishbowl that's like only sticks out maybe about 3 or 4 inches from underneath, so I can still get very low to the ground and to eye level with these wildflowers, just like this creamy white violet here, which is a pretty cool violet that I don't see too often. So it really helps to get down to a lower perspective here, instead of just looking down from up above or eye level for a human or whatever. Definitely a lot better to do it this way, I think. And yeah, it really helps to drop out, of course, the background, to get it out of focus here and get just like the greens of these blades of grass and all the other foliage and vegetation and whatnot. But yeah, pretty cool to do this. Doing a vertical once again and shooting at 50th of a second, f7.1 and ISO 400. No filters. I'm doing the 25mm extension tube with my 75-300 telephoto lens paired up and shooting at about 95 millimeters or so. But with that 25mm extension tube, obviously allows me to magnify the distance and get much closer than I could without the extension tube. And let's say if I was just using the telephoto lens on its own. I'm seeing right here some dwarf larkspur. That's a really nice deep purple one. Seeing some toadshade also as well as we get more into the woodland here. And I think it looks like the leaves of, yep, looks like some wild ginger down here as well. So we're really getting some good variety here at Richardson Forest. This place is really stunning for being only my second visit. And I know I mentioned earlier in the episode or in this video that I went a few weeks ago, and it's just completely night and day, the difference, honestly. I mean, it's just, there's so much more variety of the wildflowers themselves, and they're just much more bursting with color and everything too. I mean, it's just such a completely different landscape than it was a few weeks ago when I first went here. But it's really just stunning to see this place as we're getting to the peak bloom, that is, not pink bloom, but there are a lot of pink wildflowers. But taking my time with it, you know, really looking down at the floor, the woodland floor, and trying to find the best lighting situations and compositions and what the most brightest or vibrant colors of the flowers, individually speaking, that I can get for images here. And just also the best angles I can get, of course, too. I don't want to go off trail and trample them, of course, and all that, or pick anything around them. But we'll go ahead and keep going here, and we'll see what we can get. Another relatively understated wildflower is these Mayapples, which, you believe it or not, are considered a flower. They have the almost like star-shaped looking leaves way out here, as you can see. And if you look underneath, they actually produce, I think it's like a fruit. This one's not quite fully developed or bloomed or whatever, but you can see them underneath. So it's almost like a, I don't know, like an umbrella of sorts. See right there, this one right here. And you can really see they can grow really, really huge. I mean, that one's probably like shoulder to shoulder on me, I'd bet. I mean, that's a pretty large Mayapple. And there's some more over here as well. Very beautiful one. All right, so I got something pretty cool here. I actually found another little cluster of like maybe 3 or 4 drooping trilliums. And I got one that's fully in bloom and it's facing the trail, thankfully. So I'm doing 7.1, bouncing between 60th and 80th of a second and ISO 400. I have to wait for the breaks and the wind, of course, because with these plants, because they're much taller than the surrounding foliage and everything on the woodland floor out here and the other wildflowers, is that even the slightest breeze, which kind of comes and goes right now, it's definitely dying down since I got here, but still it's happening quite a bit, and so it's making the trillium sway a lot more. But yeah, it's looking really good. I actually have been preferring the horizontal composition because it just comes with the light, the sunlight behind me here that's coming in from this direction is just illuminating behind it, and with the kind of more the depth of field with F7.1, I'm just really making these like swath of colors that's very just warmth, I guess I could say, warmth inducing. It's like oranges and greens and stuff because it's mixing in these old autumnal leaves that are, you know, orange and dead and brown and decaying. And it's just the greens of all the leaves that are being regenerated for spring here. So overall, very cool. I really like this. It's pretty nice. And also doing a rule of thirds where I'm centering, or not centering it, but putting it off to the right and having one of the leaves be prominent. 1 or 2 of the leaves, I think, but having them being prominent in the frame at least. So overall, very cool. Really nice to get this. I still got a little ways to go on the trail here, and then I'll probably turn around. I have about an hour and a half of daylight. I might pull out the wide angle depending on the sunset. Looks like it's actually going pretty promising, but it's definitely getting more shaded here in the woodland here. So I'm gonna have to make do with what I have. But all right, so sorry, I just had to run down the hill because I noticed the light was getting pretty good. We're just now, just for a few minutes away at least, from golden hour. And so I swapped out for my wide angle lens. That's a 16 to 35 f4. I already tried doing some brackets, some bracketed exposures, that is. I've been shooting at about f18 to 20, even maybe f22. That would get you a nice sunburst of the sun. I'm including it in the frame, way in the background in the sky, obviously. And I got all these different phlox and some blue-eyed Mary. Yeah, just doing it low to the ground. You can't even really see the tripod in the camera, but it's right down here. And I got this nice, you know, fallen tree trunk right here that makes for a nice, just kind of adds to the scene, I guess. But it's nice little pops of color with the greens, and then the bare trees allow the sun to just filter right through. And yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. I think I'm doing about 50th of a second, I think, maybe even 1/25th of a second, something like that. But I'm going to try some neutral density filters and maybe a polarizer and see what that'll do. I think I have a 3-stop neutral density filter that should darken out the sky quite a bit, so it's not quite as dramatic, and hopefully keep the sunburst. We'll see about that. But yeah, actually this is an 8-stop, so see, it makes it pretty dark at least. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna try a few more images here, and probably as I make my way back, as I am now, just kind of follow the sun and keep looking behind me here from where I've been on this trail, and just seeing how it's filtering the light and spilling out all over the landscape, and see if I can get some wide angles of incorporating, that is, the wildflowers at least. But anyways, I'm gonna try this out here, and we'll see how it goes. It's been a great visit. I hope you enjoyed it. I was out here for a few hours here in the afternoon, evening. Saw lots of great spring wildflowers that are typical, especially in April here. And yeah, just beautiful, you know, woodlands of just full of phlox, blue-eyed Mary. I mean, the drooping trilliums, you know, the wild ginger, of course, all the creamy white violets, the blue violets. Just everything here was just on full display. And this is such a beautiful just example of, you know, native plants, of course, and native wildflowers to our region. And, you know, it's really cool. And I got a lot of different photographs, you know, mostly macro, but some wide angle and some everything in between. So anyways, there's quite a few images that I'm going to be probably sharing in the video here that I think turned out pretty good, hopefully. But other than that, that's going to be it for the video, guys. So thanks so much for watching. This has been Richardson Forest Preserve. Until next time, make sure to get out here. Thank you.